God is the author of life, and he is the one who established things for our benefit and for our joy and for his glory. Ultimately, our life is about his glory, and that doesn't exclude marriage. Like our marriages and the picture that God paints of marriage is ultimately for his glory and our enjoyment. He sees marriage as a gift created by God, blessed by God, and meant to be a source of joy and intimacy and companionship. It's not meant to be endured, but it's meant to be celebrated. It's meant to be a picture of God's love, grace, and wisdom. One of the most beautiful pictures comes from this picture painted in Proverbs 31. Notice what it says, and if you have your notes, she opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well to the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. That's what the home is to be filled with, right? Wise words. You notice what it says there again. When she opens her mouth, it's full of wisdom and teaching, and kindness is on her tongue. And if we drop down, her children are calling her blessed. Her husband is praising her. Wisdom, kindness, praise. This is the life-giving tone of our marriage. Imagine that if that was said of your spouse, right? If you were being described by your spouse, and the words that they use to describe you were this, man, when they speak, they just bring so much wisdom. When they speak, kindness is on their tongue. When they speak, there's so much life and joy in giving. Let me ask you, is that what defines the nature of the conversation in your home? What if encouragement became the language most frequently used in our homes? What if life-giving words were the most common language in our home? It's like the small crack in the dam that starts as a trickle first, but it just keeps getting wider and wider, and all of a sudden it breaks through. That's what strife can do in a marriage. It starts really small. It starts with little jabs. It starts with eye rolls. It starts with snarky tones and sarcastic comebacks all the time. But left unchecked, it can wreak havoc in our relationships, in our homes. Right? God's wisdom for your marriage is not to best one another in sarcastic comebacks. It's to speak wisdom. Marriage isn't about keeping a running list of who's right and who's messed up more. That'll ruin a relationship really quickly. It's about grace. It's about learning to move through the forgiveness pattern. We read this a few weeks ago when we did Living Unoffendable, but Proverbs 19:11, good sense makes one slow to anger, and it's his glory to overlook an offense. It doesn't mean you ignore hurt, but it means you address it with a heart towards peace, not punishment. One of the clearest ways we can reflect God's wisdom in our marriage is through how we honor one another. I love how Paul describes it in Romans, that we ought to outdo one another in showing honor. Outdo, like make it a game to see who can honor one another more. I love this idea because it has honor and cherished has the same kind of like idea that, and there's this book that I read a couple years ago called Cherished about marriage. And man, it challenged me because so often we think of like, oh yeah, I love my wife. I love my spouse. But there's a slight difference between love and cherished or honoring. Cherished and honoring gives this idea that we want to present them as radiant and beautiful. Men, we talk about this, right? In what Paul says in Ephesians, that we are to love our wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy and radiant and beautiful, right? By the way that we love and cherish them, Are we presenting our wives as holy and radiant and beautiful? Friends, speak well of your spouse. Whenever you have a chance, brag on them. There's such damage that's done when you guys when friends get together and they just start ragging on each other's spouses. It's just damaging. And the Bible calls it unwise. Instead, we should speak well of them, brag about them in front of the kids and the family and friends. Normalize respect and honor and cherishing in your home. Normalize, make it a normal thing. Because when we choose to honor with our words and with our time and with our attention and with our love, we are displaying the glory of God. And we are putting on, we are living out what Jesus Christ did for us. And that's the ultimate goal in marriage, is that we would be a reflection of God's glory. That we would love our wives as Christ loved the church. And that wives, that you would respect and honor, and that's a picture of what God has for us.